you hear of the champagne socialists, kind of what we're doing right now. The
Yeah.
bubbly and then the armchairs. But
Yeah. Where's my champagne?
we now have more members than the conservatives by quite a bit. So,
Wait, really?
what can we do? Yeah, they only have 8,000 members and 1,300 voted in Rustad's leadership review
wow.
recently. So, I think
1,300 people selected the guy who might have been our premier.
Lowan! We're gonna press record on our mics.
Thank you so much for having me.
This is a fun little bookend because I feel like it was only yesterday that I was emceeing your launch event and I was looking at your platform like, okay, yeah, let's see, and it turned out amazing. Yeah, Emily is the newest leader of the BC Greens Party. She won with an amazing grassroots campaign just like a couple weeks ago?
Couple weeks ago, yeah.
And I guess I'll let you take it from here. So what do you see as the future of the BC Green Party now?
So for those of you who don't know, for the last couple months, we've been campaigning, growing a groundswell of young people, workers, renters, and communities across the province that are just fed up with the status quo of politics in this province. And my campaign slogan was, "Fight the oligarchs, fund our future." And I believe I see a little prop over there.
You guys like my hat? It says "Dump the oligarchs."
Dump the oligarchs. It's sort of a play on dump him.
It's very Chapel Roan. I like it.
Yeah. That was on the vision board, I have to say. But and basically what I'm saying is that nothing will ever change if the same small group of men keep taking more and more of the pie each and every year, and the government, likes to cover this up. They're completely complacent to the billionaires, the big polluters, and the corporations that really call the shots in the premier's office. And so, now we have this massive opportunity to form, a party that is a sharp and exciting vehicle for young progressives, and many of us are completely disillusioned with politics. But over the course of my campaign, we really just cracked open this new window and new hope for so many people that were just completely apathetic and disillusioned.
I mean, not apathetic, but definitely disillusioned.
Disillusioned.
I was voting all right, I guess.
And so, I started out with this sort of mentality that this was an experiment. Is our generation, have we given up? Do we see, any sort of political home as a viable vehicle to affect change? And for those of you not familiar with BC politics, the BC Greens play an outsized role. We just have 2 seats, but we're 1 seat away from holding the balance of power. And we have a history of doing that in the province. So, we can really build these movements and then, force the government on the back foot in negotiations. So it's a really exciting time to be rebuilding the party. And we brought in thousands of new members to the party over the course of the campaign. And in just 5 weeks, basically, the party list grew from 5,500 to over 10,000.
Oh my God, wait, really? 10,000? I did not know that.
And many of whom are young people under the age of 30. And so we now have more members than the conservatives by quite a bit. So this is
all right.
Wait, really? What can we do? Yeah, they only have 8,000 members and 1,300 voted for voted period in Rustad's leadership review recently. So, I
1,300 people selected the guy who might have been our premier.
Yeah, exactly.
Oof.
Yeah, so it's an exciting opportunity to just really catalyze this surge of momentum and give David Eby hell for everything he's doing. Yeah.
All right, awesome. Well, my second question for you is, so what's it like being the Canadian Zoran?
Do you have free healthcare? Do you have free healthcare? Do you have access to free healthcare in BC?
Sort of.
I have student insurance.
So my name is Emily Lowan, and I'm running to be the next BC Green Party leader. And I'm trying to stop the privatization in our healthcare system and to ensure that every British Columbian has access to truly free and universal healthcare. How does that sound?
Is that Right? Am I right?
I mean, I think he looks better in a suit, to be honest. But I have high hopes of meeting him someday. I think that would be a great collab. But I mean, I think we also have some Zorons running around BC, and I've been having some really great chats with possible candidates in the next election. And yeah, it should be a really sort of exciting time for the movement and the Greens.
This is going to be the major, a big theme in the next episode is like kind of, I guess, patriotism, but like, you know, how can Canadian patriotism and identity in general coexist with decolonization?
Yeah, I mean, I think we've seen such a regression this past year where Trump has triggered this wave of what I see as sort of this faux nationalism where, you know, yet again, we just define ourselves as better than the US, and it's this sort of knee-jerk reaction, but we're not truly looking at the history of our country. You know, it is founded on the genocide of Indigenous peoples, on land theft, and you know, the ongoing colonization of this country. And so, yeah, Trump has just sort of unlocked this wave of recolonization across the country. We saw that here in BC, in Ontario, and federally. You know, all these fast-tracking powers came about. It was this sort of wave in the late spring where, you know, we just saw a total steamrolling of Indigenous rights and treaty rights as, you know, a barrier to economic progress. And, you know, that story couldn't be more wrong. And I can't help but feel that, you know, these premiers, the Prime Minister, just see this as, yeah, a means of centralizing power in their office and not looking at, you know, the short, medium, long term of building true nation-to-nation relationships and like learning from the incredible generational knowledge of Indigenous nations across the country. You know, they hold the knowledge of long-term survival, of, you know, living, yeah, alongside and stewarding these lands. We've really, in BC as well, just seen EB use Trump as a Trojan horse. You know, this really,
we gotta build more LNG because otherwise Trump's something.
It's Trump,
yeah,
guys.
Yeah, for
Look
sure.
over there.
Oh no.
Nothing to see here. Yeah, no, it feels like he's just used Trump as a Trojan horse to strip away, you know, the climate safeguards and Indigenous rights, you know, that they didn't really want to do in the first place. And we've seen this huge backpedaling where they're using, you know, economic sovereignty as an excuse when, you know, many of these projects would actually come online far after Trump becomes president or leaves office.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, there's that. So I think, you know, we need to spend the time to actually figure out who we are. And I want to build, you know, a national identity that respects Indigenous sovereignty and our planetary boundaries.
And yeah, all right. And do you think that like a lot of this backpedaling is coming from the fact that like the NDP, the BC NDP specifically, got a little bit steamrolled by the Conservatives in the most recent election? They have less of a mandate than they used to, or what do you think is the reason for all this backpedaling?
Well, I think the NDP took away the wrong lessons from the last election. You know, we narrowly escaped a far-right government. David Eby himself, after the election, called it a near-death experience, and that was,
really?
You know, yes,
Damn.
yeah, and so I think he took away the wrong lessons. We see them chasing the polls, capitulating to conservative voters at every turn, and chasing the right without looking at why did that election unfold in that way. We know that through history, you know, when the governing party stays the course, and when every major issue gets worse, as it has in BC, you know, workers and regular people are going to be looking for answers. You know, why are their lives so hard? And that becomes just open territory for the right to scapegoat vulnerable groups and to really puppet all these false solutions to bring in those voters. We saw a swell of young men joining the Conservatives in the last election, but that is what happens when you don't have a strong, bold voice on the left proposing like a real wealth redistribution agenda in the province, providing those alternatives and opening its doors to unions, to workers, to young people who are deeply disillusioned.
Okay, yeah, and the wealth redistribution, that's actually something that I wanted to ask is like, I feel like the word socialist gets thrown around a lot. How do you relate to that word?
I mean, yeah, these terms are so unnecessary.
Which side are you on?
So
You're one or the other.
I believe in that everyone should live, have affordable housing, that should, have a good, stable job, and, groceries shouldn't be insanely expensive. So if that makes me a socialist, hell yeah.
I mean, that sounds like communism to me, but no, I'm just kidding.
Crazy talk.
Yeah. I actually heard the word sewer socialist earlier today, which is like, I'm going off script now. The word sewer
Tell me
socialist
more.
today. Okay, so it's like basically just the idea of socialists, but they measure their success by like the actual infrastructure they put in and like the things that they get accomplished. It's like, we built more sewers, we built more, buses or trains, that sort of thing. But I think also sewer socialist makes me think of like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
I'm gonna say, if you have to explain a term that much, I don't think it's gonna take off.
No.
I mean, I guess, yeah. You hear of the champagne socialist, kind of what we're doing right now. The
Yeah.
bubbly and then the armchairs, but
Yeah. Where's my champagne?
Yeah.
Do you think that a lot of people voted, BC Conservatives because they just wanted to vote for some kind of change?
I think that was the sentiment, yeah. And that's sort of what I was saying earlier. Like, we've had 8 years of the same government and every major problem has gotten worse. And that pushes people to their breaking point, and we see that now, like with the BCGU and the PEA workers who are, asking for a reasonable wage increase to match and address the affordability crisis, and the government's stonewalling them. That creates a real like loss of trust in the government, and we need to fight back in whatever way we can.
Yeah, and I can't believe I almost forgot to ask you this. Tell me what your thoughts on all of the strikes. I mean, there's strikes, of course, here in BC, which is most relevant to you, but like kind of all across Canada. It's pretty crazy. What should the BC NDP do?
They should get back to the table.
Yeah.
and obviously with a real offer. Last time they were at the table, September 29th, the NDP kept the BCGU waiting for 3 hours. Like they had a 9 a.m. negotiation and they didn't get in the room till noon. And so, and that really speaks to how...
Did they even text them, be like be there in 15?
I
Or
don't
was
know.
it just like we're just gonna sit at this table for 3 hours?
Yeah, right, exactly. And so, like, the NDP call itself the party of workers, but when those workers ask for a wage, the story's very different.
We're broke, you guys. What are we gonna do about it?
Yeah, and, we're putting all of our eggs in the so-called golden goose of LNG to be this revenue generator that gets us out of the deficit. And
in 10 years, once that pipeline is built,
Right.
then we'll be rolling in it.
right when there's a global supply glut of LNG,
Yeah.
our projects will come online when we've spent billions in taxpayer dollars, and we'll be this lovely late market entrant, high cost, one of the highest cost projects in the world. And we'll
So
be
when
stuck
supply
with
is
the bill.
high, the price is also high, right? That's how that works?
Yes, it sounds like a great plan. There's no manufacturing, no innovation, no vision, aside from this antiquated rip it and ship it resource extraction model that got us into this issue in the first place. So, yeah, I think the BC Greens can really be holding the government's feet to the fire and putting, I don't know, some real alternatives on the table that support workers and support our climate.
Maybe later.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I guess my final question for you before I let you go is, do you think we should nationalize Tim Hortons?
We have to seize Tim Hortons. I'm calling on Mark Carney to nationalize Tim Hortons, immediately put the apostrophe back in it, and bring back the bread bowls.
Why not? I
Yeah?
mean, yeah, like Tim Hortons is, as you were saying, like controlled by U.S. and Brazilian private equity firms, and like, yeah, I think whether
It's got
Tim
such a
Hortons
strong
or not,
Canadian brand.
yeah, and I mean, I think the strongest parallel here is to the fossil fuel industry. You know, they brand themselves as Canadian. They wrap themselves around the Canadian flag during these elbow up times. But they're majority owned by U.S. private equity firms. And so, you know, when you really follow the financing and the ownership, you know, we don't have much going for us here in Canada. We need to reestablish our industries, and we have a huge opportunity to nationalize a renewable energy industry, and sure, Tim Hortons as well. Why not?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, I just real quick want to touch on that last thing is I think a lot of people think that with all of this new fossil fuel industry that we're just ramming through, all of the profits are going to go to regular average Canadians, right? But like that's not how that works.
No, exactly. That is not how that works. And there's so many examples in BC where, you know, you have LNG projects that have existed for a few years, and you go into the community, you talk to people, and you don't, there's no trickle down. It's only this like sucking sound of the wealth being extracted from these communities.
I hear it.
You know, and that wealth just like flies off to private equity around the world. Oftentimes, you know, these Wall Street sharks, and that's certainly the case for these new projects that David Eby is celebrating, like the Prince Rupert gas transmission pipeline. Some of its biggest backers are private equity firms in Trump's inner circle, like Blackstone. I don't know if you've ever heard of Blackstone and their role in the 2008 financial crisis and the housing crisis. And so, you know, these are the characters that, you know, are supporting this onslaught of new gas development, and yeah, it's actors like Blackstone, but it's also, you know, Apollo Global Management, whose CEO has.
We all know Apollo Global Management, right?
I mean,
our favorite Canadian-owned. I don't know, probably not, right?
Yeah, it's a U.S. firm whose CEO had to resign over Epstein ties. So, you know,
Wait.
It's quite the bunch of villains we have knocking on our border in BC.
Wait, so Apollo? How is Apollo linked to the BC fossil fuel infrastructure?
Yeah, so let me bring out my red yarn.
Yeah. Let's map it out.
Apollo was the earliest investor in Western LNG, which is a shell company who has no previous production experience. It's basically been created to be the proponent for the PRGT project, which is a zombie pipeline, when initially came to life during the Christy Clark years, was defeated by land defenders and is now rearing its ugly head again. But yeah, basically Apollo Global Management was an initial and instrumental backer of this company.
Yeah, I just want you to know when I did a video about private equity, I did in fact have to use a corkboard and read, because it's just like, okay, so they're owned by this, and then they're a shell company of that, and it's just like, it all just somehow leads back to Epstein's Island. So that's
Oil and gas, Epstein's Island.
I don't want to leave it at that.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I guess I'll just say what's next.
I'm going on tour.
Yeah,
so.
all right. She's going to Disney World.
No, we are doing a Fight the Oligarchs tour across BC. So I'll be
Will
starting.
you be throwing these hats into the audience?
I mean, we'll have to find out. We have our annual general meeting, and I want to get a slew of these new members in the room there. So please come on out, even sign up to be a member, come out to the AGM, and we're going up north and really, shining a light on the corporate resource theft across this province and the real solutions that regular people are fighting for. Jimmy Pattison, he controls basically all of the fishery licenses in the north, and there's a group of nations that are clawing those back and fighting for sovereignty over the fisheries there. And so, there's so many stories across this province of the rule of these corporate monopolies and the real alternatives on the table. So I'll be going all through the province and doing rallies and town halls and getting ready for a possible snap election in the spring.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I thought you were gonna chill out after nope, just more go.
Yeah, it's a campaign to campaign to campaign.
All right, well.
My new life.
Yeah, congratulations. Well,
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here and taking a chance on my silly little show and doing this pilot, and hopefully, BC, much like this first episode, we'll look back on it and kind of cringe at where we were, but we'll be glad to where it went to. This is great. Oh wait, you know what? We'll do this and then we'll do this.